Okay, we are live.
Okay. Okay, well, in that case, I shall call the meeting to order. First item of the day is the roll call. Mr. Schuler,
Here.
Mr. Stitt,
Here.
Mr. Shadwell, I'm actually here. Ms. Can,
Here.
Ms. Freed,
Here.
Mr. Campbell, and Mr. Gangler. No, okay. I'd like you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would stand, please. Oh, Eddie's already got a flag, so I guess I don't need to hold up my little flag. Okay, are we ready? I pledge allegiance
To the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
for which
stands,
it stands, one
One
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty.
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January the 5th meeting. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody have any queries? Nope.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, right. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to our public hearing. And the way it works is anyone who wishes to speak during this public hearing, that's the applicant themselves, the staff and the public, must be sworn in. We'll allow the public to speak at the appropriate time during this hearing, following the receipt of the staff report, presentation and questions from the trustees themselves. And anybody who's wishing to speak during this public hearing, please raise your right hand. Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that you will tell the truth in these proceedings?
I do.
I do.
I do. Okay, thank you very much. So our new business for the night is the public hearing, and it's in relation to ZC 2021-001. And we'll start off with a staff presentation. Mr. McCarthy, are you ready?
I am, thank you.
Okay.
So the request we have is an application for a major amendment to the Glenmary Development Plan to convert 96 land dominium units to 56 single-family dwellings, submitted by D.R. Horton on behalf of the owner, Glenmary Development, LLC. The property is presently vacant. It's zoned Amelia PUD, and it's proposed to be, the major modification would alter the classification to Pierce PUD. The future land use is designated as residential cluster attached detached residential. As you can see here, this is an aerial of the vicinity. The property is located a couple hundred feet south of the intersection of Glenmary Drive and State Route 125. So just a quick history. The original preliminary development plan was approved by the Amelia Planning Commission May of 2019. In July of 2019, the Amelia Village Council then approved the development plan for a total of 65 single family and 120 multifamily condo units. Subsequently, in November of 2019, the Amelia Village voted to dissolve as a municipal body. March 2020, the Zoning Commission, Pierce Township, approved the final development plan under Amelia's zoning. So through the moratorium process, the Zoning Commission processed the remainder of the development plan in place. September of 2020, the Board of Zoning Appeals approved the applicant's request to classify or to reclassify the condominiums as landominiums through a minor modification interpretation. As of January 2021, the Claremont County Planning Commission voted on the current proposal to recommend approval of the conversion of the landominiums now to single-family dwelling units. Some general highlights. The applicant is proposing 27% open space along with walking trails and picnic tables. Dwellings ranging in from 1,635 square feet to 2,546 square feet. The lots range in size from approximately 5,800 to 1,300 or 13,000 square feet in area. Those are deficient, as the minimum required by the Pierce Township PUD is 10,500 square feet. The properties are proposed to be served by Claremont County Sewer and Water. Stormwater is to be managed on site by a storm detention facility. The applicant proposes to dedicate approximately 1,700 linear feet of roadway to the township. Sidewalks on both sides of the street are to be maintained by the HOA, and all phases are proposed to be completed by 2024. So as you can see here, this is the landominium general layout that was approved. It was a conversion of those condominium units. And now this was 96 units total. It was 24 buildings with 4 units each in each building. Now, as proposed, you have essentially this development split into 2 different phases. You can see the faded phases along the bottom here, 1 and 2, which are all single family, and those are approved. And actually phase 1 has been recorded and is underway. The phase in question here is phase 3 and 4 on the north side near Nagley and between Nagley and 125 here. Here's a closer layout. You can see that the layout has changed a bit. The roads in the landominium proposal were going to be private. It has since been converted, so they are now public. As you can see along Nagley Lane here, there is not a formal second access, but the applicant has worked with the fire department and with staff in general to dedicate a fire access. So it would be a dedicated fire access, but not for through traffic.
Where will that be, Eddie?
Let's see here. So if you can see on the bottom left corner near Nagley on the drawing here.
It's
Around
lot
85?
86. It's lot 86.
86, okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's where we originally planned for it to be.
Yep.
Sorry, Eddie.
No problem. Here is the ongoing phases right now that are not proposed to be altered, but just for reference. Again, phase 1 is recorded and is underway. The applicant's landscape plan and open space can be seen here. They have a circulation along the proposed storm detention that also connects it into the proposed sidewalk system. Additionally, they are proposing picnic tables and some seating as well in the center of the site where you can see there's a little bit of a rectangle.
Eddie, are those maps in our packet? Because I haven't been able to find them yet. But there's only 121 pages also.
Do you want me to go back, Mr. Stitt?
No, I'm just asking, are they in our packet? Because I got a couple screens working trying to find it.
Yeah, yep, they are.
Okay, I'll find them. I'm trying to figure out where you are in the packet.
Okay.
Go ahead, though.
All righty. As you can see, these are the architectural renderings showing the external, an external view of the various different structures proposed. There are 5 total architecture types. And these are the other 3. So the applicant has formally requested 3 waivers. In total, staff has determined that they need 6 waivers total based off of what they've submitted. Staff recommends granting 5 of those 6. The first waiver pertains to the minimum lot size. So the minimum lot size in the PUD, as discussed, is 10,500 square feet. The applicant has a number of lots that are under the actual 10,500 square foot minimum. So the staff's review would recommend that if the applicant can commit to redistribute a portion of the open space of lot 86, which generally is what I would say is a wasted lot, to augment the size of, and I said at least 10 lots in this particular proposal. Now, I've spoken to the applicant. This one is probably going to be a discussion item. I think that the applicant was working with their engineer. It, might be a little bit difficult for them to augment 10 lots, but they said that they might be able to add some of that kind of wasted open space, if you will, to a couple additional lots. Additionally, a commitment to create space and surface to the trail between lots 40 and 41 and 79 and 78. Now, that's part of the trail network, which would connect the two different subdivision, the four phases rather, the southern and the northern portions. Staff recommends that the lot width and side yard waivers be granted. The applicant is proposing at the narrowest 52-foot wide lots. The minimum required is 60 feet in length, as well as the side yard setbacks, where the applicant's proposing 5-foot minimums for a total of 13 on both sides. Generally, 8 feet is required as a setback for a total, and which would total 16. In approving those waivers, staff recommends a commitment to build the proposed homes to higher standards, wherein the facades may not exceed 10% vinyl coverage, which is a requirement already. However, the sides and the rear of the structures may not exceed 50% vinyl coverage. So staff recommends the consideration of that higher standard in granting more leeway on the lot width and the side yards. Additionally, a commitment to adding another housing option that proposes a less prominent garage. Each of the, and this is subjective, and this is staff's opinion. The zoning commission is obviously free to accept, deny, modify any of these recommendations. The open space waiver, staff recommends that it be granted. They're proposing 27% open space, 35% is required. 2 commitments here are recommended, wherein the trail network be completed. So staff believes it would be a good idea over the long term to allow pedestrians to traverse from Naegele into the subdivision. As more development occurs in Amelia, we're hoping that there's going to be a more comprehensive sidewalk and trail system where the neighborhoods will be connected. So it wouldn't be a promotion of through traffic, just pedestrian traffic. Additionally, a commitment to install evergreens, particularly Eastern Red Cedar, Green Giant Arborvitae, and or Spring Grove Arborvitae, to be mixed in along the northern buffer, along the 50-foot easement that's proposed on the northern side of the site. Staff also recommends that the maximum gross density be approved. Now, the applicant is proposing 3.41 units per acre. The maximum is 2 dwelling units per acre per the PUD. And staff recommends that be approved in conjunction with number 1 above. Now, it's not shown on here, but the one waiver that it was not requested, but conceivably, it's not shown as being fulfilled on the landscape plan, which I know the applicant can speak to this one, but there is on-lot landscaping that's required. I don't know that the applicant is opposed to providing the on-lot landscaping in accordance with the resolution, but a formal waiver was not requested for that particular requirement. Going on here on the waivers and development agreement, active open space shall be completed prior to the commencement of phase 4. The applicant expressed willingness to comply with that. Proposed build out is expected to be complete by, I believe the applicant stated 2024 through our phone conversation today, which they can reiterate. The proposed 50-foot access easement is to be granted to the township, maintained by the homeowners association until such time that it is actually developed. Now, that some of these conditions are actually going to be just reinforcing. They're just mimicking some conditions that were already included, including the shape files being required for easements proposed, the wedge area that was created between the roundabout and the northern out parcels be maintained by the HOA, fire access to be surfaced in accordance with the fire chief's recommendations, active open space to be completed before phase 4, open space and trails to be maintained by the HOA. Now, the underlying zoning district for accessory structure approval and similar shall be single-family residential, and the applicant must comply with all state, federal, and local regulations. And for the most part, again, I spoke with Mr. Ferrugia this afternoon, and he expressed that for the most part, he was in agreement with these various recommendations. And again, when they speak, them, they can touch on any items that they deem inappropriate. These are the remaining items, the ones that between staff and the applicant going back and forth, items that need a little bit more consideration from the zoning commission. The lots backing up to the 50-foot easement should have a berm in the rear yard within the 25-foot buffer. Or rephrase, the resolution requires either a berm or a 25-foot wide evergreen buffer between this adjoining property and the easement. The applicant has stated that they are willing to plant the evergreen buffer. So that staff's in agreement with that would satisfy the resolution. The reason that it's remaining on this list is because it wasn't included on their landscape plan. We haven't received an updated landscape plan yet. So I fully expect that they'll have no issue fulfilling that requirement. Perhaps the one of the more sticky items that we have is regarding fencing. So I can go back to the page for your reference here, but the fencing in question. So as you can see on the northern side of the property, lots 111 on the far left through 124. Those lots, all of them have a rear yard that faces that outlets onto that 50-foot wide easement that runs along the backs of their property. Now, the concern that staff has is that 50-foot easement theoretically could become a street, an active roadway at one point in time, sometime in the future. Now, what we want to avoid is a circumstance where there's 6-foot tall opaque privacy fence all along that road. So that's more of it's an aesthetic situation, and so we do need a resolution on that. So it is staff's position that fences placed in this area should be limited to see-through 3 or 4 board Kentucky horse fences or similar. 7.04 F7, street trees are present, but on-lot vegetation is not present. Again, this was the item that was not a formally requested waiver, and I don't have reason to believe that the applicant will not comply, but we do need a landscape plan that shows compliance. The applicant has stated that they intend on constructing the final pieces of external sidewalk connecting their development to the sidewalk on Glen Mary. And let's see here. The final item is the connection to Pond View is not shown per the land use plan. Now, staff is in support of the current proposal and the current 50-foot wide access easement, assuming compliance with the rest of the application and conditions mentioned therein. Staff is willing to concede that, that would be burdensome in the event that the applicant does agree to comply with the remainder of the application, there shouldn't be any issue and the easement is sufficient. Almost done here. I won't torture you guys anymore. Staff has found that the major modification proposal is generally supported by the land use plan and the zoning resolution. The proposal is supported by 5 objectives and conflicts with 2. The land use plan appears to generally support the property in question being used for residential purposes. Now, the Planning Commission at their January 26, 2021 meeting voted to recommend approval of Pierce Township Zoning Map Amendment ZC 2021-001. Now, the applicant has requested that this letter be placed into the official record. Mr. Palo can obviously speak to this in greater detail. The applicant wanted to submit a formal objection to staff's comment that a connection to Pondview from the existing cul-de-sac would be required. Again, staff is fine with conceding that point. We can end. And I obviously have zero objection to entering this into the record. So as being part of this presentation, it's officially in the record. And again, Mr. Palo, if you want to speak to this any further, you're certainly welcome to do so. The staff recommends that the Zoning Commission consider recommending approval of the foregoing, accepting the Planning Commission and staff's recommendation and staff reports, as well as pass a motion to recommend approval of the major modification with the following conditions: that the waiver/development agreement dated February 2nd be approved, as well as the enclosed conditions, and that the remaining items of concern shall be resolved in a manner deemed appropriate by the Zoning Commission. Basically meaning, satisfying all of your questions, as well as going back to any of those remaining questions that are outstanding. And the PUD is obviously just a little bit different than some other zoning processes. So I included just a little bit of a cheat sheet here on as far as making the motion. So whoever makes the motion will have to formally read the recommendation report from the Claremont County Planning Commission as part of their findings. So the recommendation to approve in January. So staff is available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also here with us at the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCarthy. At this point, it would be appropriate for the commission itself to have a discussion. And I would like to just start off, because I had a couple of queries that Mr. McCarthy might be able to answer for me, or finding that Mr. Paola can do it at a later stage. My primary question is, why did they want to make this modification? It was originally condominiums, and then suddenly it sprung into landominiums, and now it's single-family residences. I assume it's an economic reason, but there hasn't been any that I've seen in the 250 pages I've looked at. Haven't seen any notation as to why this suddenly changed. Do you have any idea, Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's the economics of the situation. I believe that the demand for single-family homes in the area is, and that's based off of, I'm assuming, that a market analysis from the applicant, but based on the conversations that we've had, I believe it was a preference from D.R. Horton. And of course, the applicant can speak to the finer points of that as well. I don't want to overstep, but I believe it was an economic decision.
An economic decision, okay. Because is that because it moved in to be part of Pierce Township as opposed to originally part of Amelia, or was it just economic? Or maybe he can answer at a later stage.
I would, I think that, so obviously we approved the final development plan after the dissolution was formalized. And then, so that conversion to landominiums occurred afterward. So I think the perhaps the COVID-19 circumstances and the pandemic might have played a role in that.
Because if
I
you
know
recall,
that they're sorry.
sorry, I was going to say, if you recall, when we first saw this, we agreed that since it had been approved by Amelia, quote unquote, we would go ahead and let it go through as it was. And then suddenly, I didn't hear, but suddenly I find when I'm reading all this that turned into landominiums from condominiums, and now it's turned into single family residences. So it sort of came as a surprise, for want of a better description. Okay, my second question was that the map and the plans are showing an open space between lots 78 and 79, a little pokey road to get down to that small piece of open space that's between the original phase 1 and 2, and then this next phase. I don't understand the rationale for that. You've got to walk past 10 more houses to get down to Glenmary Drive and get to the big open space. Why would you, take up 20 foot between, or whatever it is, 10, 20 feet between two buildings to walk down to that tiny little open space? To me, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense.
Is that an open space or is that an easement shown there? And again, I don't know what map everybody's looking at. There's so many here, it's hard to figure it out.
The only easement is that 50 foot at the top of the map that's on the screen now. If you go down to the very bottom, there's a triangle, and that triangle there is part of the open space I'm referring to. If you can read like the fourth lot in from that roundabout on the bottom section is lot 79, and they're supposed to.
No, I see the dotted lines that you're referring to, Stanley.
Okay.
I just was wondering, is that actually a walkway, an easement, or is that going to be something that's literally paved?
No.
Oh yeah, I can speak to that for you if you'd like.
Right.
So that's proposed to be part of completing the trail system, so that there's more or less a loop that can be walked between the various different subdivisions. So I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay, so let me ask this, Eddie. If you look to the left of that, follow your open space there at the bottom of the page over to the far left where Negley comes in, there's also another 25-foot buffer easement back there. If that's a connector for one subdivision to the other for the walking, to me, it would seem that it would be more beneficial to have that walking spot on that 25-foot easement back there in the back end. Instead of, like Stan's saying, taking it between 2 yards that are already tight.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
that was my point. It's like, why would you do that between 2 yards when you can walk? There's a sidewalk, for crying out loud. You can walk around the sidewalk and come down into the big open space where the picnic table is going to be.
Right. Yeah, so where the problem comes in is the connection where the idea, and maybe it was a terrible idea from my perspective, but I was just trying to be creative on trying to connect these various different, going back. So one of the initial conversations we had was, these two subdivisions are kind of connected, but they're really not. You can't really drive from one to the other without going back onto Glenmary Drive. And so my thought was, well, ideally you could walk between them or have multiple options to kind of walk us. There's no requirement that necessarily, there's no requirement that you have to be able to drive between the subdivisions. But I figured, hey, if they're part of the same neighborhood, it makes sense to be able to walk between them. So that's where that was born out of.
Okay.
And I don't know can you see the phase 2 and phase 1?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So if you see here, this is where it connects between lots 41 and 42.
Okay.
You see the dotted line continues.
Oh, okay.
So, realistically, if you just connect, if there's a trail through the open space, I think that would be reasonable. It still wouldn't, connect to the cul-de-sac, so you could walk from cul-de-sac to cul-de-sac, if that makes sense.
Right.
But, that gives you a little bit better of, you can kind of see the 2 pages there, right?
Right, you can go between 41 and 42 and then between 78 and 79 and get onto the sidewalk and come out to the end of whatever it's called, Sasquatch
Right.
Drive, right?
But I mean, I think it's totally reasonable to just utilize the 25-foot path here that you were suggesting. Right here that I'm zooming in on.
Yeah, because
But-
on that bottom page where phase 1, phase 2, again, where
Yep.
that property line joins, they could walk to the left of that, which takes you up to that V, if you would, or the point, which then intersects and joins right into that open space.
Mhm.
But Stanley, you got the same problem. Let's look between 40 and 41. Is that when phase 2 comes along, is that going to narrow those lots down as well?
Yep.
Those lots look much larger than lots 78 and 79 do.
Right.
So the idea was you could
guess-
walk between and you basically link up with the sidewalk and you could do a loop, more or less.
I don't see the need for this because I'll speak because I live in similar communities where I back up to another community. If you put that in between my houses, I don't know who would buy my house because you're like right next to my house. People walk all the time. They walk through all the streets in Legendary Run. So
Right.
I don't see the need for this trail. I think it's creating 4 lots that I don't know why someone would buy them.
Right.
I
agree. I agree with Susan because I wouldn't want somebody that I don't know walking in between my house all of, 24 hours a day. That doesn't make sense at all. And my other question, if I can ask it while I'm thinking, is the open space, how is that going to be maintained? Is that going to have a sidewalk in it? Is it just going to be grass? Is the HOA maintaining the open space? How is that going to be looked at?
Yeah, the applicant is proposing for it to be maintained by the HOA.
But it's all grass. It's not sidewalk.
So I will get to the drawing here that shows.
It looks like it's a little under a half acre in that open space. You talking the open space 126 there, Donna?
I'm talking the one that the open space,
The bottom
The
of
one
the
behind lots 77 through
Yeah,
80.
that bit.
up at the top is the one I'm talking about. Where we were talking where the cut through was on the one cul-de-sac.
Oh, the tree line
Yes,
in
where
this area?
where it says 66 open space. How is that going to be maintained? And with all the sidewalks that are going to be in this subdivision and the streets, why would we have anybody walking through that open space? To me, it should just be green space and left alone.
Yeah, the HOA is proposing to maintain the open space.
But just as grass, nothing else.
Well, yeah, that open space, it's heavily treed. So
Okay.
there's yeah.
So why would people be walking in that anyway?
I figured just because people walk through the woods, and things like that, just for,
Eddie, that's
For
such
leisure,
a small,
It's-
such a small
Right.
space. That's not needed to be a walking area. I agree with Susan. We don't need
Yeah.
that connectivity.
The reason that it all came about was because with a PUD, there's an impetus to be creative with a development as much as possible, sort of thing, and basically attempt a higher standard in the event that you're looking to waive other conditions and other components of approval. So, it was just recommended as a potential for creating an interconnected system. Now, you'll see these sorts of systems. A really good example of it is Reston, Virginia. It was developed with a really integrated trail network with these trails essentially connecting various different neighborhoods through forests, open space, all this sort of different thing, or certain things like that. So that's more or less where the idea was born out of. It's not that it hasn't been done elsewhere. It is a tight space. I would definitely agree with that. we were working to see how we could make this open space as active as possible, and not just passive space that really didn't have a traversable trail network or anything like that. So, but I think that that's totally reasonable. It definitely is a narrow space. There's no doubt about it.
You know, the
Eddie.
other thing, I drove up there the other day and went back to cul-de-sac where Goldfish is and saw all those lots. And if I'm not mistaken, that's 66 open space. You have to walk down an embankment to get to this section we're talking about now, don't you? That's not on the same plane as the section we're talking about right now. The elevation changes quite drastically there, I think.
Yep.
So it'd be difficult, unless they do a lot of regrading, I think it would be difficult to make that part of a walking trail anyway.
Right. And back,
Jeff, I recommend we take it out.
I was going to say, back to my original point, why would I take 5 foot off 4 lots for that? You know, when some of them are already pocket handkerchiefs to start off with, why would you go and take another 5 foot off one and 5 foot off the one beside it?
No,
On 78 and 79 particularly.
You know, while we're talking too, because there was also a trail proposed to Nagley, and unless Nagley people are in favor of that, I don't think that's necessary either. I think that if I lived on Nagley, I don't want a new development connected to my development. It's already bad enough we're getting the fire road there, but then to connect a pedestrian and encourage people to walk Nagley and potentially out to Lewis, which is even worse, is not good.
The only reason you'd walk down Nagley is to get to Lewis and go around the corner to get to the Kroger's. You may as well just go out the front door and do it.
Yeah, but part of this is kind of looking a ways down the road here. You know, we knew that Nagley, there was a lot of concern about through traffic. So that was obviously hitting a nerve. This one I think is a little bit more reasonable as far as pedestrian traffic goes. You know, we ideally these neighborhoods are connected in some form. You know, they're going to be right adjacent to each other. I would think that, you know, people have families or they want to go for a walk. It's kind of reasonable where if I lived on Nagley, I think it would be beneficial to be able to maybe walk through here down to the library when sidewalks are constructed elsewhere or upgraded, because you would have the ability to walk from Nagley to the library, to the post office conceivably on a nice day with having that, and you wouldn't have to get in your car and do all and traverse elsewhere. And knowing full well too.
Can we survey the people on Nagley and ask what they want? Because if I was them, I would not want that. And I'm guessing they don't either. When you get development next to you, why do you want the new development to potentially impede on you?
Right. On the other way, Susan, if I was the people who lived in Snapdragon Drive, I wouldn't want people trudging through, because one of the reasons you'd trudge through there is to go down to the little park that I've got down there that's in their drawing. They've got a little park and they've got swings and God knows what. So now you're inviting the people from Nagley, inviting my friend who lives down there with his 3 kids, you're inviting him to bring his 3 kids down to play on the swings.
Yes, could go both ways.
Yeah.
So again, that too, the idea is that space is for the neighborhood it's a unifying common space where these various, you know, folks can get together and meet, you know, and that was, I think that's the, you know, the general thought, but,
right.
You know, so people could walk, you know, like, oh, we can meet at the park and the kids, you know, get together and enjoy open space, that sort of thing.
Right.
How big is that park area, Eddie?
Let's see here.
No. Well, you've got it on the map, right? Okay.
Yep. So it's a couple acres, and you can see that there's the applicant proposed this walking trail here that connects into the sidewalk system. And there's also a number of picnic tables as well that are proposed in there, and some kind of shaded and stamped concrete.
Right.
Well, if I was, no offense, but if I was a member of an HOA and I had other people and I'm paying HOA dues and other people are coming into my turf from another subdivision that have no responsibility for it, I wouldn't care for it. I agree with Susan. And
We've had those issues in Legendary Run where people have come in. I mean, that's why we have to check IDs at the pool because people try to use our pool without permission.
Right.
They're not a Legendary Run member. So I completely, so now I see both sides. I was more concerned about Nagley, but I would be concerned about this development too, that it encourages people to use things that aren't theirs.
Right.
Eddie, I know it's all wishful thinking about the connectivity and everybody getting together and walking and all of that stuff. But most of these houses are going to have two parents in there with kids. Parents are working. The kids are in activities. You're not going to have a lot of time to be walking around here and meeting up with everybody.
Yeah, well, the applicant proposed this open space here with the walking trail, so it might be worth chatting with them about their ideas to why they thought the walking trails and picnic tables were, conducive to the product. But we're willing to work with whatever they want to propose. I don't think it's a bad idea whatsoever. It seems like they have a fairly nice design, but it might be worth chatting with them to see what their thoughts were on because open space a lot of times with the PUD it recommends tennis court or frisbee golf or you can really there aren't a lot of really strict parameters. You can go a lot of different ways with it, but
I'm not against the park space for this development. I'm against the connectivity to another area that doesn't pay for any maintenance on that area.
Well, by having that road there at the end of Nagley, it's automatically connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought, no, wait a minute. I thought that connectivity was going to be controlled by the fire department, that there would be a gate or something closing that off, that only the fire department would have to be able to get through that path there. Am I wrong?
yeah. So
I'm assuming that it's going to be a steel gate going across.
Right.
But again, what keeps people from over in the Nagley area or, that Hyatt or any of that area from walking down and just ducking under it or walking around it? It's not like it's going to be a fence that they can't get through. They can get through it still. So if they want to get back there, they're going to get back there.
Well, I understand.
agree to keep the trail out of the open space. I'm only saying, if people want to come down Nagley, and even if there's a steel yellow gate like you see in the parks that's got a lock on it that the department can only open, they can still walk around it, go under it, what have you.
the applicants actually, based on the discussion we had today, they want to remove the fire gate proper and place a bollard at the end of the drive there. So
What?
A what?
a bollard, like in a parking lot, like those, like those yellow posts in the ground.
Oh,
And-
they have to be physically lifted out. They're on a sleeve. They
Right.
slide in. But again, and that's going to stop cars, but it's not going to stop anybody from walking through.
Oh, no. Because it would be open otherwise. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Oh, Jeff, I agree. It's not going to stop everybody, but I can't see, how many houses are down on Nagley to begin with, that want to come over and play in somebody else's playground.
Yeah, I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying you're not going to stop it.
Right.
It discourages them slightly though. If there's a
Yeah.
walking trail, that is no discouragement. But if
Right.
there's a gate or something that still says, hey, I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
I can see, and you folks that live in Legendary, you can cuss at me if you want, but I don't use Legendary so much as I do for walking as I do to ride the bike because it's interconnected to my subdivision. And I can see that this subdivision is going to be better for biking or for mothers walking their kids in a stroller, what have you, than the Nagley or those streets over there. So that may be more of what comes through as people on bikes or joggers versus people wanting to come into the playground.
You guys see
Jeff, can I-
that share screen there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a view of from Nagley looking into Glenmary. So, you know, if that, like, I guess right to your left there, right over the top of that mailbox, that's going to be lot 86, more or less, kind of in that general area.
Right.
You can see, you know, it's pretty cleared out as it is right now. I mean, there's really nothing stopping someone from kind of just walking through the property now. I don't know how much of a nuisance we need to expect. You know, I think that these neighborhoods, as long as there's not, you know, through traffic, I don't think anyone's really going to be super adversely impacted, you know, but there is, even in its current state, there does appear to be a way for people to just kind of traverse this area without much impediment whatsoever. But
You're only stopping vehicle traffic. If you put a gate, that's the stub at the end of Nagley there. If you put a gate there, you're at least stopping vehicle traffic, but you've just got the trees to the left of it, and you can just waffle through the trees if you so desired. If you wanted to, you know, if you're that keen on walking down there. I don't see very many people walking about anywhere, and I sure as hell don't see a lot of bike riders. So, well, I'm just more worried about the two little pokey things they wanted to do between 41 and 2 and 78 and 79, because I wouldn't want people walking between my house and the house next door.
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think the applicant will have any issue pulling that off the plan.
Putting that off there, okay, cool. And you
Eddie,
can have the sidewalks, and if people want to come through from Nagley, if you know, if Eric wants to bring his kids to go down and play in the park, well, good on him. He can go down, play with his kids in the park. If they want to walk down there. You know, my other question was over one of my other questions was over the 50-foot easement at the top of the subdivision. Now, I know what the rationale was. That was originally Toddley and Amelia's idea of having a through road to go, you know, down across and out through Pommett's, you know, train station and come up in the middle of nowhere. The original parkway dodging Amelia, which was going to go down through Locust Lake at some stage years and years ago. We have the 50-foot easement. What are we going to do with the 50-foot easement? Has anybody decided? I mean, it's just going to be a 50-foot easement that stretches from the back of the whatever the food store is there as you come in from, you know, you turn into Kroger's past the gas station.
Mexican place there.
Okay, yeah, there's food stores there, and it's going to go where? You know, we're going to connect that up at some stage. I don't know why, because unless you continue on and go down all the way through to where the post office is, what's the use? You can just go out the front and go up 125.
Yeah, Stan, I'm looking at a satellite view.
Right.
And that easement will go right into the back of that strip mall where the Mexican restaurant is
Right.
attached. And
Okay.
then there's an access road behind it, I'm sure, for deliveries.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
That's
it's
about
a
all.
stub road. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's not as if it's the road that comes down past the storage sheds and
No.
goes across the main road behind the gas station. It's not as if it connects to that. It's further up behind the Mexican restaurant.
Right, it simply goes, it's that little corner wedge of the Kroger's development there.
Right. Okay. So, you know, I wonder why, I know what the fanciful idea was years ago, but I wonder why it's you know, we're still going to persevere with it. It comes out, yeah, it comes out up here, and there's the building there. You'd have to come around the side of the Mexican restaurant and then go up and connect and go along. It's not as if it's straight, because if it was straight, it'd go right through that restaurant, that building there at the end. Right.
Right.
Thanks, Ed. Right. And you'd go right through those buildings. And I look and I go, to what purpose? I mean, we'll take the 50-foot easement because it backs onto all these buildings out the front here. But I wonder what the plan is long term. See, if you look at your drawing there, your sky view there, Eddie, you can see that there's an outline of another building here at the top. I mean,
I'll go back. I'll head back to it here.
yeah. Do we have a rationale for it? That's the key.
Yeah, it is contemplated in the Amelia land use plan as part of the Amelia Parkway,
Right.
which again, it's a bit older, and I spoke with the applicant about this a bit, and I think that given a compelling reason to remove that, if they wanted to add some of that land back into these other lots and that sort of thing, I think that's totally reasonable. Realistically, I think that a portion of it is pretty logical because there is a severe issue on 125 regarding curb cuts. That is a very legitimate issue where you have curb cut after curb cut along 125, and it affects the level of service on 125. So having an alternative frontage here where you begin creating the opportunity for these sites to be recombined here as an out parcel.
Right.
And perhaps you have right in, right out, or, the orientation changes from just being solely on the 125. So that's part of the thought. And so that traffic was envisioned to come into those out parcels, go through the roundabout,
Right.
down Pond View, and inevitably connect right here,
Right.
somewhere in here. So you could, to the library, but you would basically bypass all of this on 125, like as an alternative. That was what the original vision was. Now, as you can see with the Premier site here, it looked like that got derailed in no uncertain terms. So where that goes from there, it's hard to say, but that was the original concept. And, connecting to the Kroger lot, I mean, I don't know that is 100% necessary. I think that the conditions on the ground have changed, but we haven't seen anything alternatively proposed that indicates that, just get rid of the 50-foot easement altogether,
Right.
if that makes sense. So at least in some form, it seems like it would make sense, but
We can leave it
a
there.
compelling proposal otherwise would be
Right.
interesting.
I mean, if you think about it as an idea, if you had a street there where it'd go through the roundabout, it'd go up Pond View, and it has, unless you purchased all of this, it now takes a bend, and it'd have to straighten up, and you'd have to go through there behind the train station and work your way up there. Or you'd have to come back out onto 125, and they wouldn't let you have lights on 125. The only way you could have lights on 125 was if it's a cross street, which is why Glen Mary is where Glen Mary is. Otherwise, there was already a road out, but they made the cross street they made the lights at Glen Mary because it crosses. It's a cross street, and that's their rationale for 125. You can only have lights at a cross street.
Well, also lights, as far as I remember, stoplights have to be 1,000 feet apart also.
I was going to say 750. Yeah, maybe it's 1,000. Right? Yeah,
It's 1,000.
it's 1,000. Is it okay? Okay. Well, that's me.
And Stan, just another thing I have about that open space back there and that becoming a road.
Right.
If I was to buy the houses that back up to that road,
Right.
I wouldn't be interested in those lots.
No. Well, that's what Eddie was talking about.
And my question would be to the developer, is it going to be disclosed to the people that buy those lots that there's a potential for a road to run back there? So they've got a road, they've got a cul-de-sac in front of their house, and behind the house, they've got a 50-foot road behind them.
Right. They've got a 20-foot berm at the back, and then a 50-foot right of way behind it. And
Right.
a whole mass of little cottages further back, right? Okay. Okay. I've said enough. Anybody else would like to talk? Jeff?
Who's maintaining that 50-foot buffer before we move off of that?
The HOA.
The HOA.
The HOA is?
Yes.
ma'am.
Or will will it be handed over to Pierce Township at some point?
Yep. Yeah. So when it's developed, it would then be dedicated public, and it would be the township. But as it remains open space and until there's actual formal dedication, it would be maintained by the HOA.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And what would it be dedicated to or for what?
It would be it's right of way. So in the event that it were formally developed, it would be a roadway.
And how many feet long is that 50-foot right of way?
Let's see.
I think you measured 145 before, Eddie.
Yeah, it might be around 1,400 approximately. Oh, yep. So
Yeah.
1,100.
Let me ask this, if that's a roadway, all of those homes on the north side or that go to 125, I should know this, but right off the top of my head, what are those homes zoned?
They're general business
So if somebody wanted to,
or business rather.
if somebody wanted to go in and throw down a bunch of money, they could buy those. And then if the township has that road, instead of having more cuts and traffic going in and out of 125, could that, I'm just asking a question, not that I'm in favor of it, but could there be a potential for that to be another strip mall with the access not on 125, but on that 50-foot road? That then is against those new homes going in. And again, to your point, Donna, I sure as hell wouldn't want to buy a house if I know that there's a potential of a road in my backyard that could, let's just say, if you'd ever put a strip mall over there between that road and 125.
Okay, but the thing we have to look at is how deep are those roads along 125? Because, you know, to put a strip mall in there, Jeff, I don't think there's enough room to do anything.
Okay. Well, all I'm saying is you wouldn't give them, if you did not want to give them access off of 125, would someone try to use that road as the access into whatever they built in there?
Right, they would. The real question, Jeff, is there's not going to be a lot of strip malls and things built in the future.
That's
After this 1 year, Amazon's destroyed strip malls to all intents and purposes. You won't be building malls. You know, they're all dying away.
No, but what they are building is that's an ideal space for those used storage lots that are going up every place. You
Oh
know,
my God,
used storage
right.
buildings in there.
That's
Again,
what you need.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if it's business, you could buy it for whatever and have the access off of that road. And I don't know that that's conducive
No,
to brand new subdivision.
no. So I would hope that the builder is going to inform people that there's a 50-foot right of way out the back.
Well, I'm hoping the builder's on this call. And I don't know why he hasn't spoke up yet. Maybe
Well,
wait
because we haven't asked him yet, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to make any comments before we move on to our next session, which is open public comments?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Susan, did you have one? don't
Yeah,
wanna
I
jump
know, but go ahead.
Okay, my concern is that we are, you know, for instance, we're saying it's okay that we require 35% open space and we're down to 27, and that we require 10,500 square foot lots, and 91% of the lots are smaller than that in our PUD. Eddie, my question to you is, are we setting a precedent for the next time a PUD comes in and says, hey, look what you did for Glen Mary. I want you to do it for me.
Yeah, these have to be considered on a case-by-case basis on their own merits. So, you know, I think that there's sufficient justification that, you know, if additional commitments are made, then it can be justified. In my opinion, I think it's reasonable to make those conclusions if you think that the commitments are significant enough. But in the event that you don't think that it's a significant enough commitment to justify lots under 10,500 square feet, then, you know, that's totally reasonable. You know, that's the whole reason we have these discussions, of course. But if you think that a higher standard needs to be met in order to meet that waiver requirement, that's totally justifiable. It's just a matter of, you know, deciding as a body what you think that threshold should be or what it is, because it's left open in the PUD specifically because it needs to be considered on a case-by-case basis. But the key thing too with the PUD, which is really neat, is it demands that the applicant be as creative as possible. You know, basically avoid monotony, avoid template boilerplate projects. You know, it's looking to say, hey, look, we can waive these standards, but it's up to you to be creative and to explain why you think it's justified, that sort of thing. So, you know, I thought that some of the architectural commitments and, you know, those sorts of things, the trail network, which is apparently is very popular with the zoning commission. I thought that some of those commitments were pretty reasonable, but, you know, it's very subjective, you know? So if you feel that there's something that they could do to, you know, kick it up a notch, so to speak, you know, I'm sure that they're willing to have that conversation, you know? And the 50-foot easement is interesting as well, because I don't feel that it is 100% necessary in its current proposed design. You know, I don't see that it needs to go from the roundabout to the Kroger property necessarily. I think maybe a portion of it is necessary for, as Mr. Stitt was alluding to, getting curb cuts off of 125. I think that's a very important strategy, but reducing that and maybe dedicating it as open space, or maybe adding it into some lots to make some of the lots a little bit larger, I think that would be perhaps a reasonable solution. And, you know, but to answer your question, is the more creative they are, the more really the PUD is working, sort of thing. So, but I don't think that you would be painting yourself into a corner, especially if you're really specific about why it was warranted in this case.
Well, another thing is, I'm sorry, Susan, my mind's running. We inherited another subdivision up in Amelia that I can't, Eddie, you're going to have to help me. It's up by the post office that runs south of the post, where the post office is. And I've driven, please.
Klein Station, this one.
The
The post office is right here.
Right.
Show me the post office again.
Yeah, there.
Right here.
Okay.
And then, yep, and the purple here is Klein Station, which is a new.
Okay, that's the one. I drove through there. And one of the things I would request of our developer, when I drove through those up there, it looks like almost every other house alternates. You have this, you know, facade, and then the next one's a different facade, and then number 3 is the same as 1. It's like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, or 1 and style, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is another, you know, the same facade. I don't want to see that in another development in our township.
They need more housing plans than what they have right now.
Right, but they don't, I don't know how many housing plans there are, but those lots are so small, and those houses, all they do is alternate.
They
Yeah.
have 5 plans actually that I saw. My question on that was there were 2-car garages, but some of the plans had, you could add one other garage on the side and have 3-car garages. Well, that'd be touching the fences, for crying out loud. That's what I thought when I looked at that. Didn't seem like it made a lot of sense to me. But at least we've changed, at least Eddie's put in that the facades need to be brick and not just, vinyl, whole vinyl things.
Well, I agree with that, and I like the proposal that with the percentages that we had in, that Eddie had in there on how much had to be, something other than vinyl. But I just, I would like to see something in there that says there has to be a pattern or something. I know Fisher does that on their homes and the developments we have. They don't let you repeat, every other house the same. So
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Yes,
Eddie, with respect to this, I hate to keep going back to this easement, but I find this very interesting. Back to the easement issue. Did I understand you correctly, that the township ultimately would be responsible for maintaining that easement in the back there on the back side right there? As far as, let's say, for instance, if that's a grassy space, would that once the street is dedicated, would that easement in turn ultimately become the responsibility of the township in terms of the day-to-day maintenance, the grass cutting and the like?
Once it is formally an improved road, it would. So in the event that we redirect TIF funds or general fund revenues, that sort of thing, to actually construct it, then it would become the township's responsibility. But we'll just say in the next year, when it after this the development goes through and it remains grassy and natural space, the HOA would be maintaining it during that period.
okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. And then back to the question, because I found the elevations interesting as well. I thought they were very standardized. There was very little variability. And if you go up to, let's say, for instance, Union Station and some of the other lower end developments, you see a pattern, as Donna suggested, and it cheapens the appearance of the development, in my opinion, if everything looks alike, both elevations, color schemes, and so forth. So I was impressed by the generic nature of the elevations presented by the developer and the similarity between them.
Right. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Can I
Eddie,
ask my question? I have one.
sorry, Susan. I
That's
forgot.
okay. Can we go back to one of the maps that has the plan? The layout?
Yes.
Yep.
Because there's a line. I just want to check what this means and who owns what.
That one there.
So the line that's at Nagley, there's the 25-foot buffer thing
Right.
at the back of 18, 17, etc. So is that their property or is that something they can't develop?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. That's part of the 25-foot wide natural space buffer that is they're basically getting credit for maintaining that buffer in its natural state. So it can be used by the homeowner, but as far as clear cutting it, that sort of thing, that's what the buffer is in place to prevent those trees and vegetation from being removed.
okay, I'm going to jump in real quick. I'm sorry, Susan.
Okay, that's fine.
We had that same situation at the development that's it's not Legendary Run. What's the one on Merwin? I've been out of zoning too long. Across,
Stonehaven.
no. On the opposite side, going up Merwin 10 Mile, it's Legend Oaks, Legend Oaks.
Legend Oaks, right,
Okay.
the 64 lots, right.
Okay, we have that same situation all along the houses up in Legend Oaks with that same easement back there, that they were not allowed to use it and they were not allowed to cut it. And almost everybody that backed up to that easement have cut down the trees. You can walk it, you can drive it, and you can see it. That does not work.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
Sorry.
No,
I
that's
hate to,
exactly what my concern was. I don't think that's a guarantee that that's gonna stay the way it's.
it doesn't. I was up there, when I was still in zoning, and the neighbors would become irate, and that was their property, and they were gonna do whatever they wanted to it, and they would cut every tree down that they could get to.
Susan, let me jump in here real quick. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Are you talking the easement behind lots 18, 17,
And 16.
Yeah,
all of those?
yeah, the little dotted line.
Gotcha, okay. And Donna, are you talking about the area that's, if you're coming down Merwin 10 Mile towards your house on the right-hand side, right before you get to your street? Are you talking about those homes?
No. I'm talking, you hit the stop sign at
White Oak.
White Oak, and then go up, and it's a subdivision. It's Legend Oaks. It would go off into going east into Legend Oaks. And the houses that are on the back side of that all had an easement off behind them that they weren't allowed to cut or anything like that. And I was constant.
That's on the left side of Merwin, across from the golf course, or from Legendary.
No, it's across from Prestwick Place.
Yes, right in there. You know where do you remember the bicycle man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, you're over there. I'm sorry.
that's where you're going into Legend Oaks. And
Gotcha.
I was constantly in there with those people complaining and carrying on because people were cutting down all the trees and taking that as their property. So that does not work.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, can I move on to public comments, guys? Everybody's in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, I shall open the meeting to public comment. If anybody wants to make a comment, they should raise their hand. Apparently there's a button that I don't seem to be able to find on my screen. There's a button that says you raise your hand, and Mr. McCarthy will let you in.
And if you're on the phone, you can press *9.
Well, thank you. Okay.
So, Mr. Shadwell, we have someone that has raised their hand, it's MS, and I'll go ahead and unmute them if you'd like.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I in regards to with the 25-foot buffer, I actually am in phase 2 of the buffer, around like houses 37, 36, and 35. And I did have about 25 feet of trees there, and they've already removed those during the development. So I don't think that buffer will work like they were saying.
Okay. Is there supposed to be a berm there, or just the imaginary 25-foot buffer?
Yeah,
yeah.
Just a 25-foot buffer.
Okay, so there's no berm. Okay.
You know, one thing too, the applicant, we should probably give the applicant an opportunity to speak. I don't know if they might have a presentation or some points that they want to go into, but they have also raised their hand as well.
Okay, well, in that case, if our other participant doesn't mind, we should move over to them, if you will, Eddie. Thanks.
Hey, Stan,
Yes,
the gentleman that had called in,
right,
he's still on.
right. He's muted himself, or he's been muted by Eddie.
I can unmute him.
Okay, my question is, he has purchased that lot and the developer has cleared out the trees already? Is that what he stated?
No, I own the lot next to it that's off of Hyatt. And that all those houses will border my property.
Right. So you'll be bordered by 30, 31, 5, 6, and 37.
Yeah, about like 6 or 7 houses, yes.
So it's that lot there. that lot
So
there,
Is your house the one that has the very long driveway?
yes.
And as you come
Correct.
back, it looks like you share that driveway with another home?
Yeah, there's 3 houses that share that
Is
driveway.
your house the one, as you come back the driveway to the far left? As I'm coming back?
It's all the way at the end.
Okay, okay, I'm looking at an aerial view and I see where there, at least on this aerial view, there's a heavy thicket of trees in there.
Yeah, there was.
There was. They're
Okay.
gone.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
why is that designated
Buffer.
as a buffer if if you've already taken the trees out?
We should probably let the, the builders, answer that, Eddie, if you don't mind.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thanks.
So my name's Ed Ferrugia. I'm with Glenmary Development. So specifically on this section where he's referring to the trees coming out, there were some trees taken down inside the buffer due to the installation of a storm pipe. Eddie and I spoke about this, and we had our intention, what we're going to do, not really our intention, what we are going to do is we're going to replace the trees that we took out with pines. But Eddie and I have spoken about this. This is probably going back to over the summer, I guess, late summer, I would say. And yeah, so that there is a section specifically right there where there were trees taken out because there was equipment putting in a storm sewer. They got into the roots and they had to come out. But yeah, we are going to replace those trees.
Okay.
But we maintained a tree line everywhere else around the property.
Is that buffer between that property and let's say lots, 37, 36, 35, is that elevation consistent as it comes from that gentleman's yard into those lots? Or is there what's the elevation change there?
There's really not. Let me pull the grading plan, but it's relatively rare. So it's the same grade. From the back of the curve of lot 35, you're changing grades 2 feet.
Was that land fairly flat before you cleared it?
Yes, it's a pretty flat site in general.
Okay. The only thing is I'm thinking in my head that if you tried to help those neighbors by putting a large berm in there, you might do them more disservice because you're going to have the water runoff from the berm then running into their backyards or side yards or wherever that might be.
Yeah, so that storm pipe I was referencing it really spans from lot 35 to 36 across both backyards, and that's where those trees came out. But I mean, as I stated, we're replacing the trees. They had to come out when they got damaged, and then they had to come out.
Looking at that map, where you see the tree line from the aerial, it almost looks like those trees used to come just about to the front of the lots. That's and looking at your construction plan, the one that's got the drawings of the 25-foot buffer at the back, it still shows the tree line. The tree line's almost out to the end of the lots, and so you must have had to chop some of those down in the first place. It looks like it comes out half. The tree line looks like it comes out used to come out at least halfway across those properties. So you would have had to chop them down.
I believe those are actually the shadows that you might be seeing on that aerial.
Okay. Not on your map. When you look at the map, there's little squiggly lines run across right through
I
35.
mean, we had to come into the trees, but I believe on your aerial, you may have been looking at the shadows. But yeah, we had to take down some of the trees. But
Okay,
the purpose of the buffer is that we're preserving those 25 feet.
right.
And in that, specifically in that section where you see the storm pipe that came out.
Okay. So you took down like 20 foot of trees by the look of it, right? Okay.
I'd like to add, my name's Doug Smith. I'm the civil engineer for the project. And when we first went through and the Village of Amelia and presented this, the adjacent property owners did come to those meetings and they did state that there were some concerns with stormwater runoff. And that was the reason we put those pipes back there in order to pick that stormwater runoff up and take care of it and convey it through the site to the pond. So, unfortunately, we did have to, some of the trees got damaged and we did have to clear them, but it does help and convey the stormwater runoff, and quite frankly is needed to convey the stormwater runoff from their property.
Okay. So if you're telling us that you're going to replace those trees, and the gentleman who lives in that property, I should ask him if he will be happy if those trees are replaced.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Eddie, could you make a note of that and speak to the gentleman again that's lost the trees behind his property and make sure that that's followed up at a later stage?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Any further comments from the public?
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to address some, I don't know if I do this now, I don't know if I do it after the public comment, but I would like to address some of the items that came up in the report.
Right.
Just as there was a list of items that Eddie had put up, I believe it was remaining items, that was discussing screening and fences, street trees, sidewalk, all that stuff. Eddie, would you mind pulling up that slide?
Sure.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Right, okay.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Okay.
So the first one, the lots backing up to the 50-foot easement, we don't intend on putting a berm. We do intend on putting a tree line though. We submitted a landscape plan that Eddie's made some changes to, or that's as part of his recommendation for approval, I believe. But it was, we're essentially exchanging some maples for some other type of vegetation. We'd be willing to, we want to work with the Pierce Township on, doing something substantial back there that we both like. And then, but yeah, it won't be a mound. We just can't, there's not enough space. The next one with the fencing. I know this kind of goes back to that, the 50-foot easement, but these lots, and kind of there's some questions going around about, the lots backing up if there was a road. The lots on that section, they are about 30 feet deeper. There is going to be a tree line. The tree line that we're talking about is, it's for the benefit of the homeowners. I don't think too many people driving in their car really care about looking into somebody's backyard. I think it's more the people in their backyard having to watch all the cars go by. And that being said, the fencing condition, I don't necessarily see the need to limit the fence to a 4-board. If these people wanted to put up a privacy fence, I think that might want to be looked at. It's just a thought. But then the street trees, we've got a street tree plan. We're trying to stay consistent with our street trees, with phase, I'll call it 3 and 4, which we're discussing tonight. We're trying to keep it consistent with 1 and 2, which are developed already. There's a lot of vegetation Yeah, and the lot vegetation, we didn't submit lot vegetation, and I honestly need to circle back with Eddie and the code and see what exactly is required. I mean, typically when these builders build homes, there's a landscape package, or they go out on their own, they do the landscaping, but there's typically a landscape plan with the construction plans. But I'll circle back with Eddie and kind of get more details on what is required. I'm sure we will be exceeding that. And then on the sidewalks do remain unconstructed. We have, and this is for really from the rotary back to our entrance where lot 1 and lot 65 are. We know we have to put sidewalk in. I spoke with Eddie today about it. We have landscaping being installed, and we will be installing that sidewalk along there after the landscaping is installed. All the interior sidewalk is the responsibility. The builder will install that after the house is built. And that's the sidewalk situation. So then the connection to Pondview, yeah, I mean, there's no connection. I mean, I think you guys talked about that. I don't really have anything to add. I don't have anything to add on the connection to Pondview.
Other than we're opposed.
Yeah, other than we're opposed to it. Yeah. And then kind of going through the waivers as well, we agree with most everything. The one item, it sounds like the board made kind of the decision to remove the trail connecting 40 and 41 to 79, 78. We're totally fine with that, removing that. And then the other one was the garage, the additional garage or housing options. I think you guys mentioned there was 5 plans that were submitted.
Yeah.
The builder, DR Horton's here with us. Tom Coran is I believe the division president for the area. He actually has 10 plans, and he can probably supply you guys with those, in the next couple of days to show what the other variations are. But when it comes to the garage configuration, because these lots are narrow lots, they're 52 feet wide, there's not really an opportunity to put a carriage garage or a side entry. Looking at the plan, yeah, you could probably do it on a couple lots, but you do it on the corner out by the front, then you're somebody's going to be driving around. That's the first thing they see is somebody's garage. Put it on lot 96. They come into development, they're going to see somebody's garage. It's not. We don't think we can accommodate that just because of the width of the lots. And then the other item was, and Eddie mentioned this in his report or his presentation, but the 10,000 square feet of open space lot 86, we're not going to be able to kind of disperse that amongst 10 lots just because of the location, the shape of it. I think our engineer could probably get more detail, but I think we're kind of limited to distributing that square footage to 3 lots.
Again, my name is Doug Smith. I'm with McGill Smith Punching. I can touch a little bit on that. In fact, first of all, keep in mind that this phase 3 and phase 4 development is in spirit with the phase 2, the design of the phase 1 and phase 2. The lot sizes are the same. The street configurations are similar. The cul-de-sac, diameters and radii are all the same. And basically, we just took, the lot design that was applied in lot phases 1 and 2 and applied it to phases 3 and 4. And with regards to redistributing that lot 86, in our opinion, we think if we're going to keep the emergency access road, that needs to be on an open space lot. And if we put that on, keep it on the open space lot, we've only got a small, narrow 20-foot width that's on the frontage of the street along the cul-de-sac. And to redistribute those lots, you can't do it because we still have to maintain the 52-foot width lots and the corner lot of 96. So it's impossible to just distribute that area into those lots and make them greater than, I believe, what is it, 10.5?
I think we were looking for some more.
And so it's based on the design of the street and the lot layout width. It dictates more of how the layout happened, and not actually the area of lot 86. So we could take lot 87 and make it larger and put that kind of area that's back behind 87 or lot 107. We could do something with either of those lots, but to reconfigure 10 lots or more is not feasible or doable.
Okay. Eddie, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think that the fire access should definitely be on an open space lot. But the intent, I think that there's a couple ways of looking at it. The idea of the open space, particularly making sure that it isn't just leftover space, is one of the primary intentions of the PUD. Because what it looks like is lot 86 was just kind of an afterthought, which, it's unfortunate, but I guess sometimes, if the economics of the project kind of dictate that happening. One valid concern that I do have, though, is if you take a look at lot 89, for example, and you apply a 30-foot setback, and then, the setbacks on the side as well, with the way that it's curved in the front. I don't know if you guys can see the lot 89 here. You don't have a whole lot of building space there all of a sudden. And those are some of the concerns I'm running, I have, where I don't want to run into a situation where multiple lots are required to get a variance because, we were maybe, we were a little more short-sighted than we needed to be, or maybe just an oversight, that sort of thing. But if you look at lot 89 here, you've got 84 feet on the western side there to work with, and you haven't even taken the 30 off the back. So I don't know what kind of house is going to fit there, but some of those sorts of things I just want to make sure we avoid. And then you look at how narrow some of these lots are as well, and each problem seems to compound. We don't want each problem to be the justification for why we can't do this and then why we can't do the next. We can't do side entry car garages because, the lots are too narrow. Well, the lots are too narrow because,
But they're too narrow.
Right. Exactly. And so that's where some of the stuff where, I'm definitely open to having the conversation regarding the 50-foot easement running along the backs of the property. Could that space be reutilized in another way? Could the lot 86 be redistributed in another way? Those sorts of things, which I know that the applicants put a lot of time and effort into this and a lot of thought. I'm sure that they have thoughts on it, and it's probably not the first time it's crossed their mind, of course, but some of that stuff, I hate to just say, well, we just said, lot 86, it was a fire access lot, and 9,000 square feet of it it just kind of sits there. It's basically lot 87 has, a 21,000 square foot lot, essentially, is almost kind of what it turns into, which, or lot 107, they get like the super lot. But
I can add to that, Eddie, if you don't mind, is to answer your question, we have put thought into lot 89. 89 is, if you can note, is a larger lot in width, and it does accommodate D.R. Horton's product. It can fit a house on it. Granted, it is a little shorter, but it does. They do have a product that can fit on that lot. We put some thought and effort into this, and I hate to say, property is irregular shaped, and sometimes these things happen. We do end up with pieces of property that are fragmented or look different or odd, but sometimes we just have to deal with that. So in this case, we could throw it in, we can work with you, staff, to find out what do you think the best approach is between the two lots, or we can just take it upon ourselves. And one other thing I'd like to add is again, keeping in spirit, and I understand that this is Pierce Township and we're in their zoning, but when this all came about, it was under Amelia, and the design was per Amelia, the open space requirements were per Amelia, and we've unfortunately had to try to work with both, and we're trying to do our best here. And the fact that we only have 20% open space, and that is in spirit with the Amelia regulations. The minimum open space for Amelia was 20%. When we had the multifamily section, we did exceed that 20%. And it, quite frankly, it was because of the regulations. The Amelia regulations required a 25% open space for a mixed use development. So therefore, we were really trying to hold to that 20% and to keep in spirit with those regulations. So that also had some play into, lot 86. If we take some of that fat out of lot 86 and redistribute it, we would fall below that 20% open space.
Right, but to all intents and purposes, 86 is, to use Eddie's point, a wasted lot. You're not going to have people playing down there. When looking at the plan, I don't understand geometrically why the line between 87 and 88 didn't run to the corner of 106 and 107, which is where your back line for 87 is. Once you knew that 86 was to be nothing, I would have thought you would have moved the line along, not made it necessarily a square at the bottom of 87, moved the line along the 107 lot and moved the line between 87 and 88 down into the corner of 106, 107, which would allow you to move, 89 along a little bit and 90 along a little bit to the start of the roundabout. And that's how you get some of your extra space that Eddie's talking about.
Well, again, I think we were trying to still maintain that access and then line up, with the center line of Nagley Road, and create a nice fire access there. And that kind of resulted in that open space lot, and set those lot lines.
And, also, when you're talking about, I know it's only 20% open space. That's not a hell of a lot. But I mean, some of the open space that you put in there, like the piece between phase 2 and 3, I look at that and that's what we were talking about earlier. Who's ever going to use that? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere.
I don't think we plan anyone to use it. It's to remain natural and in its natural state. And quite frankly, there's a drainage channel that runs right through it.
Okay.
That, it will remain natural and convey the stormwater.
Okay. Sorry, I missed the drainage channel. I must be looking at the wrong map page. Okay. I guess we should move along a little bit. Eddie, how are we going so far?
Good. We have a gentleman named Steve who has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. Should welcome him aboard.
Hey, Steve, can you hear
Okay,
us?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question is on the green space. Who actually owns the green space?
Yeah, that'll be the HOA. Will maintain that.
Okay, so if you have a problem with the green space, you gotta go through the people, neighbors would have to go through the HOA to get it rectified, or go through the Pierce Township?
No, through the HOA. Eddie,
Yeah.
it would be through the HOA, correct?
That's right.
It's
Right.
similar to what happens in Legendary, for example. If I have a problem with them, I go to the homeowners association, much as they dislike me, but that's what has to happen.
Okay,
And really?
Okay. So any more? Is that enough, Steve? Do you understand what the HOA has? I'm looking at it. God, it's like 50 pages. The standard HOA type agreements, it's page after page after page. And all of those things, once the homeowners accept it and start to pay their money and they have a committee, the committee is made up of people who live within the subdivisions, and they're the ones that would empathize with you. If there was a problem with the green space, they would be seeing it themselves, and they're pretty quick then to go get that under control.
Sir, are you asking the question because you live near a green space, or I'm sorry, an open green space, or are you just asking the question in general?
I think he muted himself, but see if I can unmute him here to answer.
Right.
Hey, Steve, can you hear us?
I'm still on mute. Okay.
I think he might have stepped away.
Okay.
Oh, I'm still here.
Okay.
Okay.
You hear
Did you
me?
have a question,
Yeah.
sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I am against phase 2, and I got all that green space on phase 2 against me.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that was going to stay there.
Okay. Are you the house above the gentleman who spoke before? The house behind?
I'm actually, yeah, I'm at the end of Hyatt.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's the same place as the other gentleman spoke
Right.
about trees.
No, I'm further down.
Okay.
I know I can't see you don't have a picture of it.
No.
Yeah, I'm at 3575 Hyatt. I'm at the very end. If you go to phase 2, you see that indentation there? I'm right past that house. I'm the next one,
Okay.
that in there,
Right
where you
down
got the
there.
cursor on top.
Okay.
That in there, that's mine.
Right. Okay. Well, they've assured us that they're replacing that green, the trees, et cetera, that were there and keeping them there.
Yeah.
So they'd be like the Pommet property was originally, with the trees right around the outside.
Yeah, yeah. But we have a lot of people dumping stuff back here. I gotta keep an eye on it. And I figure if they don't keep that green space there, it's gonna even get worse from that side.
Okay. Okay, well, that then becomes the responsibility of the homeowners association to maintain that green space. And, they can come, Eddie, they can come and talk to you if people are dumping stuff, can't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We do have regulations that govern that as well,
Right,
as far as dumping goes.
right, okay,
All right, thank you.
okay. Do we have any further questions from the public? Failing that, then I would like to call for a motion to close the public comment.
I'll make
And
a motion.
Sorry?
I have a question once we can say something.
Right. Well, after we close the public comment, then we'll move on to a discussion by the commission. So Mr. Stitt made the motion to close the public comment. Do I have a second?
Second,
Those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. All in favor, right. Okay, we move on to additional discussion by the commission. And Mrs. Can, you said you had some.
I just have a general question. Do we have any idea how many of these houses in the other 2 phases have been sold to date?
Eddie, do you know that?
Well, we have one zoning permit that had been submitted to our office, but I think that the applicants can probably answer. Send them a, hey guys, can you hear us?
Yep.
Yeah,
Now, we have not even opened for sales yet.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, no, we have not opened for sales yet. We need to, we start the houses, get them under construction, get our model built, and then we'll offer for sale.
Okay, and the other, so there's no houses sold in the whole development, or the other phases, are there houses sold in there?
We haven't started yet, ma'am.
Okay, All right. So there's nothing sold today.
Hmm,
Correct.
All right.
okay. 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 All right. Any further comment from,
I do. I have a proposal. Given the concern with the buffer in phase 2, I think it needs to be open space behind lot 84, 85, and 108, and not part of a homeowner's property. So there's actually less chance that someone's going to take over the buffer and consider it their own and do whatever they want to it.
Eddie, can you pull that back up so we can see which lot she's referring to without pulling out all the
Yes.
stuff?
Did you say 85 and 84?
yeah,
And 108, it's basically the properties that are up against other people's houses were the ones that I was most concerned with, because I think they deserve to know they have a buffer. And I speak from experience because I had the same problem when I lived on the west side of town and they were considering my yard part of their buffer zone.
What's that? We're not opposed to that.
okay.
No, I mean, it could be a 8-main, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
But she wants to make it open space instead of.
Yeah, I want a true open space behind those lots and not have it part of their lot.
That would mean you'd have to fence off the lots, I assume, in order to have it open space behind it.
No, it would just be like the easement up at the top.
I wonder if what we'd be able to do is if they can get it in their HOA documents, some sort of provision to guarantee non-disturbance of that area.
Eddie, it doesn't work.
No.
Doesn't work.
Does the HOA still control the open space just as they do the buffer, correct?
They would be the ones to enforce that, yes.
Right.
But it's the person's property, and I think that trumps the HOA, is my guess.
That's probably a question for an attorney, which I am not. But yeah, I know, I mean, obviously people, anybody can put rules or laws in place. Obviously people don't break them, which is why you need some sort of body to enforce them. I mean, an HOA is that body to enforce those covenants, codes, restrictions for the community. I mean, I don't know the I don't know the answer to, I guess, they would be the ones to enforce that. And yes, it is still somebody's property. But I think we have to leave that to the HOA to enforce. And this community, as far as the HOA goes, the committee would be, the board of directors per se would be community members after it was built out to a certain degree. But a community of this size, and this is part of our another meeting that Eddie and I discussed, that this would be managed professionally by a management company. This wouldn't be managed internally. So a management company, typically you're paying, a lot of what you're paying for is so that they enforce these codes and covenants and restrictions. And they have the resources to enforce versus, the owner of lot 93 and 99 trying to enforce something on somebody, but just with the document.
I still feel really strongly, because what you could do is if you got rid of, say, lot 79 and 92, you just push your cul-de-sac back, and then that gives the 25-foot buffer that's open space.
Well, unfortunately, Susan, as Donna said, you can have a buffer and open space, but the people who own the lot, they regard that
No,
as,
I don't want it. No, not them to own the lot. I want it to be open space, like that lot 126 at the bottom. I don't want it to be a part of somebody's individual lot. That's the problem, right, Donna?
yeah. Donna, if it's part of the lot, it would be like those ones behind the theater that we always have the problem with, correct?
Well, it's Legend Oaks. That's the way they're all set up at that
Yeah.
same area, and people think they're paying for it and they're going to use it, and they don't respect, that it's supposed to be maintained.
Right.
But it's part of their individual lots, right? It's not an open space like lot 126, right?
I'm looking at no.
126 is that little triangle thing down at the bottom that's truly open space.
Right. Okay. I'm looking at that. No, it's not. No. Anytime that they see that is part of their property on their deed, they're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah. So I want open space along those lots. So that's not part of their deed.
Okay, Susan, but what does that do to their lot size if you take that off their lot? I mean, I can't see what the square footage of lot 84 and 85 are, but you pull that back, easement off the back, you're not going to have any place to put a house on there.
Well, that's why I said they may have to get rid of 2 lots on the street and shove the cul-de-sac to the east. To do that.
Yeah, in order to do it, Donnie, you'd have to remove like 81 and 90 and drag the turnaround, drag the cul-de-sac end along in order to have, an open space along the back there. And you'd almost have to do the same, you'd have to lop a bit off 108 in order to do it as well. I don't know what size those lots are. They're not very big, I know that much.
Donna, if you blow your map up, lot 85 is 8,300 square feet. 84 is, looks like 9,000 square feet, and lot 83 is 8,132 square feet.
Okay, and how deep is the easement on the back?
25 foot.
By?
Well, the width of their lot.
This is a lot, right?
Yeah. You're gonna have some little lots.
Yeah, some of the lots are only 6,100 square feet. They're those little pokey ones.
Well, like lot 82 and 81, those are only 6,500. Right, all down the side, those are in the 6,000.
Right.
Well, if a couple of the smaller lots go, then that helps with some of the density issues too. And then maybe we're not as concerned about the open space redistribution.
Those lots, 85 is showing us 8,355 square feet, but that includes the 25 foot at the back because it's 81 feet by 114 feet down the long side and a bit down the other side. And 84 is 9,000 square feet, but it's 117 across the back and 114 deep. And sort of narrow, it's only 35 at the front. So, if you lob that, if you took that 25 foot by 90 foot off the back, by 80 foot off the back, you're talking a whole mass of like 2,000 square feet. You're not left with a hell of a lot. I'm not sure you can do that, Susan. But we'd have to work to make sure that the homeowners association enforces, well, if they can, Donna, enforces the fact that you've got to leave the trees. The only way you find out the trees aren't there is when they chop them down.
Well, that's the problem. I'm afraid someone's going to take action and it's too late for the HOA to do anything.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what we can do is that we could attempt to take an inventory of what's existing and see if the applicant will actually agree to a replacement, for example, in the event that we are told that they're not in compliance with their approved PUD, staff would go out, confirm the violation just like we would any other violation. If we determine that trees were actually taken down, we would have a condition in place that we could actually enforce that would say, well, you took a tree down, so you are required to replant a tree. And that way we would be able to actually enforce that. Now, it would be incumbent upon the neighborhood, actually, someone would need to complain, just like every other violation, and say, hey, this tree's gone. But that way we would actually have a prearranged, agreed upon recourse for actually enforcing a remedy on it. Whereas right now, it's much more gray, much more ambiguous. It's who's to say what's agreed upon. But
This is Rick Powell, the attorney for the developer. If I can interject just one point, Eddie, back to your comment. We've been pretty successful, and actually, if someone does take down a tree, if someone disturbs open space, green space, a natural buffer area, that if to file a lien against that lot, the HOA can do it. So the right of enforcement, Eddie. So if someone.
We've lost you.
Here,
I think we
he's
lost.
got to be unmuted here.
Right. He was there, but he got lost.
And I was just going to say, we had this exact same issue where we build into our the developer's declaration that if the association is required to replace trees, required to do a buffer area to replace anything that the homeowners took down, the homeowners association could go in and be responsible for replacing those areas that were disturbed, and then file a lien and even going forward with collection against the homeowner that took those down if the homeowner, to kind of put the hammer to the homeowner.
Okay.
Well, Stan, I have a comment. I hate keep being Debbie Downer, but when people take down trees, they're taking down mature trees and they replace them with a seedling.
Right. Yeah. I understand that because they've done that near us. We had trees that died and they put in saplings that the deer promptly ate the next year and that the salt off the road killed. So there's still nothing there.
And you can put a minimum caliper requirement also in the declaration.
Right, yeah, you could do that, right, okay. But I mean, you still have to enforce it. It depends who your management company is. Because they're the ones that get the reports, remember? And they're the ones that come and, go back to the homeowners association.
And I don't think people in the community are going to be the ones who complain. It's going to be the two houses on Nagley who are going to complain, and they have no rights with the HOA.
Right.
Well, they can file a zoning complaint.
Yeah.
Susan,
Susan, that's a
the
great point.
neighbors on the development I'm talking about, they all ratted each other out.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it would be good for us to go. Maybe I'll drive in there tomorrow and see how many of those trees back there are still standing.
Right. Okay. Okay, do we have any more discussion, folks? No.
I'd just like to make a comment. I don't think we're trying to make this difficult for the developer. We're really not. We'd like to see a good development go in up there. It's just when you put these areas in there with, it sounds really great, and it has to stay green space and stuff like that. But when somebody puts down their hard-earned money for a lot and they can't use 25 feet of the back part of the lot, they don't get real happy.
No, they don't.
Well, and I'm sure that that's not the high point of talking about the lot and the house they're getting ready to build. All this big, beautiful house. Oh, by the way, you can't use the last 25 feet of your yard.
You probably don't know that at the time, actually,
Right.
to be truthful. You only find out that when you start chopping down the trees and somebody complains. I did have a query originally. It's 3.4 units per acre. And once it became, I checked with Eddie, after it became a PUD managed by Pierce Township as opposed to the one that Toddley and the others had before, my question was, are we going to let this go? It's now, if you go to page 4 of Eddie's staff analysis, on his staff analysis, he said Staff has interpreted the foregoing proposal as a major modification to the preliminary development plan, not simply the final development plan. As such, modified preliminary development plans are required to comply with the Pierce Township zoning resolution. And that means it's our original resolution. And we've always adhered to the 2 units per acre. You remember my discussions over Prestwick Place. We didn't want to have, 230, 25 or whatever silly number they wanted. We brought it back to 219, which was exactly 2 per acre. This is 3.4 per acre. And I hope everybody is happy that it's going to be that size, such small lots. We're talking about 6,093 square foot lots, some of these lots. And I wonder if, we're going to be happy with this, or will this be the last one of this size to go in the new section of Pierce Township? I just wanted us to, spend a couple of minutes talking about that, if you guys are interested, or whether we should just move on and decide whether we want to pass it or not. Anybody have any comments on that?
Well, Stanley, I think that's what I said before. Are we setting a precedent for other developments to come into the township, that they're going to want the same, density that this development has been granted?
Now, we can make the comment, as we did when we passed the original approval of it before they came up with these giant modifications, that this was a legacy that we got from the village of Amelia, and as such, we felt obligated to give it the go-ahead. If, as Eddie says, this is in fact now under the auspices of the Pierce Township zoning, then we have to think, as you say, very carefully as to whether we want to set the precedent or whether we regard this as still a legacy that was passed on to us whenever they actually close the Amelia deal. It's passed on to us, and we just make these adjustments that we've talked about, that Eddie's talked about, and go on from here. What does everybody think? Jeff?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, because I was wondering if we were bound by it as well. I would much rather see, if you look at the map that Eddie's got up there right now, we're talking 52-foot wide lots.
Right.
I mean, those houses damn near stand and touch your arms out when you touch them.
Right.
So yes, I agree. I don't like them. I don't like the narrowness of them. And I would much rather see the lots be much larger. I mean, hell, how much time did we talk about buffers and this and that, and, lot 86 and all that? If we open those lots up and make them larger, I know the developer isn't going to be happy, but it's going to be more uniform with the way the township is and the way we would like the township to be. And I think the residents would prefer it to be.
Right. Okay, Mr. Schuler, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, well, to that question that you said, Stanley, I think the reason I've been quiet is I've been absorbing what everybody's saying, because I don't have that much expertise in this particular area, but I'm learning and listening to all the good comments. But I would say in regard to the legality of the fact that we could say, well, you're in Pierce Township now, and since it's a major modification of a preliminary plan, we could enforce or Pierce Township standards of 2 per acre on the legal side. I think with the developer, possibly on the moral side, since this is close to Amelia and they were dealing with Amelia originally, I would be more inclined to go along and let the developer do what they're doing. And I don't necessarily think that would be setting a precedent, since the original development was pursuant to Amelia zoning. Also, I would distinguish the area here, which is a ring near Amelia and very close and in to Old Amelia and the downtown district, as opposed to, say, over on 10 Mile, where we held them to the 219, or 209 or whatever it was, at 2 units per acre, it's sort of a different part of Pierce Township, in my view, over there. So that would be my comment. I would be not averse to allowing them to proceed with the more units based on those comments.
Okay.
But that's about all I got.
Okay, Susan?
You know, I think I'm willing to meet them in the middle. I think right now the density is a little much. And I would like to see that true open space buffer. So if they got rid of a few lots in the middle and scoot everything over a little bit, I think then that fixes the density issue. It gives Nagley the true buffer. And then I'm on board.
Okay, so I think we're just leaves you, Donna. Where are you?
Well, the only thing that I'm thinking about, yes, we did inherit this and everything. I guess I would like to know, and I may not pronounce, Mr. Paolo,
Yes.
in his letter addressed to Mr. Keating, the last paragraph states, we would, in the event the township approves modifications over our objections, including the Pond View extension, we will still have the right under the currently approved PUD to build the condominiums in accordance with all terms and conditions previously
Yes, ma'am.
approved. Is that the route that the developer would be taking if we don't approve what they've presented tonight?
And yes, ma'am, that's the essential issue, is that they still want to preserve, and it's critical to preserve what the previously approved plan is. If the board feels it's in their best interest to approve with conditions, and those conditions are not acceptable to the developer, that's effectively, in our opinion, a denial. Because the developer has the right now to build the condominiums, the attached units. And if they can't, either due to financial or just, looking at the plan, if they have to remove 2 or 3 lots, and if it doesn't make sense, yes, they would go back to the multifamily.
Eddie, can I ask you a question? When did the condominiums get approved? Was I off on vacation or somewhere? I don't recall that happening.
Yeah. So I have 2 points on this. One, I don't want the zoning commission to feel like they need to agree to something where you're being held hostage, where you have like multiple approvals. I don't think that Mr. Palo meant that or anything. But I think that we do have the discretion to say, it's one approval, or which way we're going with it. So what happened was the applicant came back to staff, and they wanted to convert the condominiums to condominiums by basically creating little mini lots for each. So each building would turn into four lots. Staff made the interpretation that was a major modification and it should come back to the zoning commission.
Right.
And so that decision was appealed by the applicant to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals overruled staff's interpretation and ruled that the condominiums were not a major modification, they were minor, and that they should be approved administratively without coming through the zoning commission. So that's why you didn't see it.
Okay. Well, personally, I would ask if you could take one lot off either side of the street, off whatever the top street is, and the bottom street. Take like 109. Well, it's got. Whoop! You just moved it, Eddie. Don't do that. But take out a lot of. Stop. Take. Now you've done it. Off Virginia Lane, you take 101 and get rid of the lot on the other side, and take 91 and whatever the one below it is off Snapdragon and move move the cul-de-sacs in a little bit at the end. I mean, it's only a plan, and it's not as if they've started any work on this. Move the cul-de-sacs, the two cul-de-sacs in away from Nagley Lane, which allows a 25-foot space down the back, and then just spread the width of those lots across some of the other lots, some of the 6,093 square foot lots along Virginia Lane and Snapdragon. And that would reduce the density by 4 lots. And, it would just help a little bit. It would depend on, on what the developer thought of that. I mean, it's not as if we're saying take out 10 lots, we're taking out 4 lots. One off either side of Virginia Lane and one off either side of Snapdragon, and we're just shortening the length of the street. So shortening the length of the street doesn't cost them as much to put in the, to asphalt it and put in drains. So that should compensate from losing a couple of lots. And then you've got the 25-foot buffer down the back that the people in Nagley get to hopefully have without the homeowners being able to knock down the trees, because then it's not their property. So, but how would we go about, how do you want us to go about this, Eddie? Do you want us to put this on hold and have it discussed with the developers and bring it up at a later stage, or do you want us to make a vote, a flat out vote right now? Because we can do it either way.
Well, if the applicant has a response, I think it's worth hearing.
Right.
I don't know if they have any interest in.
Right. Well, I should note here that everybody has seen the fact that the Planning Commission, that the Claremont County Planning Commission approved this. If I read the staff recommendation into the notes for the night to make sure that it's being read there, Claremont County Engineer's Office, no objection or comments at this time. Claremont County Water Resources, no objections or comment at this time. And they mentioned the future extension of the 50-foot egress and utilities shall be discussed as the existing street configuration does not utilize the existing stub from Glen Mary Drive, Pondview Lane. On completion of the extension of right-of-way, additional opportunities for connectivity will exist for parcels sited along State Route 125. They could obtain access along a much improved public street network, thus allowing for additional connectivity in this area for Pierce Township. And the staff's recommendation, based on the staff analysis, request a motion to recommend approval of Pierce Township case ZC 2021-001, requesting a major modification of Glen Mary Park PUD overlay districts on parcel 290-109-133 and 290-109-134, consisting of the 35.41 acres, which incidentally, it's 35.41. I should note, it says 35.41 acres as opposed to the 35.37 that appears on the plan. So we've lost a little couple of inches somewhere. So we've got that. The county has recommended it. So I should ask the members what they think they want to do. Do they want to go ahead and approve it with the conditions that Eddie has included, or put it on hold for further discussion? So I'll start with Mr. Stett. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just thinking, what would I rather see? Homes that are tight or a bunch of landominiums? That's basically where we are.
Well, that sounds like somebody's trying to coerce us, and that doesn't sit all that well with me. I'm not sure about you.
No, it doesn't me either, but that's, the landominiums have been approved.
Right.
And, we've seen before where we've tried to remove a lot from this subdivision or that subdivision, and it's always met against a stone wall because the almighty dollar is what's really speaking here.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I would ask, do we have an answer from the developer on whether or not pulling out 4 lots is a deal breaker to get the single family development approved? Or do they need to talk about that?
Right. Eddie, do you want to sort of dial them in?
Yep.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, this is Ed Ferrugi again from Glenmary Development.
Right.
This is, we wouldn't be, I mean, we can't make it work if we lose 4 lots. We're already, ultimately that transfers to, you know, the development costs stay the same and we lose revenue making making the lots, you know, the costs are spread over 4 less lots. It makes it unfeasible. I mean, we just can't, I mean, I hate to say that, but we can't do it.
No, I would have thought in this day and age, with the way plans are drawn, it's not like I'm there with a ruler and an old slide rule drawing these up. They're probably done by a computer, and I could probably have somebody go in and go, let's remove these 4 lots and spread them out.
Stan, I'm sure, and gentlemen, please, it has nothing to do with redrawing them. Again, it has to do with the revenue that you're expecting to get with the lots as it's presented now. You've got $1 in mind that you want to make, you pull 4 lots out and you reduce that revenue, plain and simple, right?
Right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not about dollars and cents, because it is. I think everybody is aware of that, but you can't, by removing 4 lots, what happens is our development cost does not change minimally. So, you know, you spread that over 4 less lots, the cost goes up, ultimately the price goes up. And
your margin goes down.
So this begs the question, what about 3 lots or what about 2?
Well, I have a comment. I mean, the developer came to us with this plan instead that said that the landominiums were not a product that is selling right now. So if you revert back to the landominiums and they don't sell, then what happens to your profit margin then when the land sits empty for maybe a year or 2 longer because you're not doing single family houses? There has to be a compromise someplace.
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I don't think the concern was that the landominiums wouldn't sell. We think that the single family market is just stronger and they move faster. Yeah, obviously there is a carry cost. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. We can't get into that right now by any means, but yeah. I mean, we're losing. I mean, essentially what we've done is we went from 96 units to 56 units. You know, we've really tried to work with Eddie on accommodating everything that he's asked for as far as, you know, I know our open space falls short to Pierce Township guidelines, but we are in line with the Amelia, which is where this project started. You know, we're trying to make some of this open space active and usable. I mean, we're really doing our best to work with you guys as much as we can within where we can work. But losing lots just really isn't something that we can't go down that road.
And I would like to add to that as well, in the fact that when I first laid this out, we originally had 6. Eddie, if you could slide it so we can see the pond a little bit. Thank you. I originally had 6 lots that back to the pond, and you know, we discussed it. We talked to Eddie about it, and you know, Eddie said we really need to make some usable open space with some active area. So we eliminated 6 lots right off the bat. I mean, this is where we're at today, and so we eliminated the 6 lots that would back onto the pond, just in an effort to get more desirable, usable open space.
Well, I would propose that the developer goes back, looks at everything, and sees what kind of adjustments they would be acceptable to. And then we reconvene the meeting next month with their adjustments and see if the zoning commission will accept what their adjustments are. That would be my proposal. Let's not make a decision tonight, up or down.
Gentlemen, the other question I have, you brought something up, and I've been looking at this wondering. The area in front of the pond where you've got, I guess it's the play area, whatever that's going to be
Right.
there, where you got that little mini figure 8. If you pull 4 homes out of the development over on your left and you eliminated whatever that play area is, you could very easily put 4 lots in there and make up for what you've got. And then by removing that play area, you've reduced your overall development cost as well. And I think you could still put, just from looking at it without trying to scale it, I think you could very easily put 4 lots back in there without it encroaching on that retention pond or anything of that nature.
Yeah, well, that cuts into the walk trails. If you look at that plan, you can see the walk trails running through there, Jeff, and you'd have to put them down to whatever the name of the street is down the bottom there, where you come in, where the entryway is. So you'd have lots there, and that would ruin those walking trails that they've got drawn on there.
Like that, Stan, but I'm saying that's the alternative.
Right.
Move the trails a little bit, make them a little tighter. You know, do you really need a figure 8 with,
Right.
in theory, 4 trails or 1 trail? I mean, guys, take a look at it. I think you hear where we're coming from, and I see you shaking your head
Right.
no, so you obviously don't like that idea. But we don't like the idea of the super tight lots either, so.
I mean, I'd still ask that we go back and relook and remove 4 lots and bring the 2 cul-de-sacs in a little bit and put the 25 foot at the back so that the people in Nagley have already been affected over their lives by having the Kroger spring up behind them and things of that nature. And there was always a stub road at the end of Nagley where there was originally some plan to make it come into the Pommet property. That's not the way Toddley and Amelia planned it. They came up with this plan. I would ask that we go away and we look to see if we can remove, 1 lot off either side of the road and, go back to the computer, adjust the size of the lots, move the fence, move the open space into the back a little bit and take it from there. Anyway, I go back. Who have I missed? I've got everybody. Do we have you, Susan? Right. So
Yeah, what you suggested was my other suggestion was remove 4 lots.
right. So
Stan, can I have one more second,
Sure.
please? I have a question for Eddie. Everybody knows I'm on Planning Commission, and the county has always required connectivity between all developments. Why have they waived that between Nagley and this development?
So the county's comment actually was requesting that there be more exploration with regard to a connection from Pond Run here. So you see the at the roundabout, there's the stub that just ends.
Right.
They were saying, and Taylor Corbett and I had discussed this, having another entrance exit right there so that you would have 2 ways in and out, and not connecting Glen Mary, but just having 2 ways in and out. So that discussion did occur. As far as Nagley goes, I think that there's concern that the intersections, Nagley itself is a little narrow. So through traffic along Nagley is concerning to some folks. That was something, but also I think that ultimately there was some deference given to our fire chief, who was satisfied with this dedicated fire access.
Right.
So it's kind of a multifaceted sort of reasoning, at least in my observation, but it didn't seem to be a big sticking point from what I gathered. But you do bring up a good point, and the interconnectivity is always something that we get into and want to promote where it's appropriate, but we don't want to force traffic onto a street that can't handle it. And I think that Nagley probably fits that fits that description of not necessarily being great for through traffic.
But Eddie, to your point, if they went into Nagley, they would come out into Lewis, and Lewis goes up into that monstrosity where it joins onto, where it's past White Oak, and it joins onto
Yeah.
125, which really should be a right in, right out only type corner, but nobody's prepared to go ahead and do that.
Right.
And that was one of the plans, I thought, why the 50-foot extension was originally supposed to go around and join under the roundabout and go down Pondview. But as I said, Pondview doesn't go anywhere. I mean, I'm looking, I can't understand the rationale why you wanted it to go down Pondview in the first place, because it doesn't go anywhere. It goes into Pommett's train station and train museum, and you'd have to dodge around that to even get out to where the post office is. And I'm not sure what it would do, because you're coming out of the Kroger parking lot. So
There's a little opportunity there to maybe connect it back into 125 there, but the right of way at this point doesn't extend that far. And
right.
I don't know, I guess you kind of cut your nose to spite your face at this point with the Premier site there. It just kind of the execution of the plan doesn't go through.
Right, you've got that across the road with the Tyvek flapping in the breeze, right? Okay, so my thought would be that we have Eddie rework with the developers to try to remove 4 lots or come up with some alternative plan. And I will ask that if everybody's in agreement with that somebody make a motion and we go ahead, and that's where we are for the night.
I'll make a motion that we table this discussion until next month's meeting. And in the meantime, Eddie and the development get together, and I ask that the developer get their pencils out and review this, please, and look at removing the 4 lots as we've discussed from where they are. If you can find a place to put them, so be it, but to remove those 4 lots currently.
Just for my notes. Oh, sorry. Just for my notes. Can you guys reiterate which 4 lots you're thinking that you want to?
I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
I just said 101, 91, 80, and whatever the hell's below 80. Just because they were, all of those lots seem to be the same width, if I remember correctly. From 90 down to 94, they're all the same width, and from 103 across to 99, they were basically all the same width. And the ones below that, 80, 81 through to 77, are the same width. So it almost doesn't matter which ones you take out.
They're all 52 feet wide, Stan.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, Jeff. I don't have that plan open. Right. Okay. Okay, so Eddie, if you're happy, Mr. Stitt made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Donna. Ms. Can. All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
on that, I would call individual because this is
Oh,
really
okay.
important.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's not like we're all in a room somewhere. Mr. Stitt,
Yes.
Mrs. Can,
Yes.
Mrs. Freed,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
right, and Mr. Shadwell, yes. Okay. Okay, I think that's just about us. Where'd you go, Eddie? I've lost you.
See me?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I think that just about does us for the night, unless there's any other business to be raised. Any additional business, folks? Silence is deafening.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Right.
I
Mr. Stitt.
second.
Okay. Mr. Stitt, Ms. Freed. Okay. Mr. Stitt,
Yes.
Ms. Freed,
Yes.
Mrs. Kane,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Shadwell, yes. Okay, well, thank you very much, folks, for your participation. I know these meetings aren't exactly what we're all used to or like, but this was, to me, this was a very difficult thing to have to review because of the fact that it's changed and the fact that it went to Landominiums and the BZA, rejected that. Somehow or other, I felt we were bypassed. Okay, anyway, that's it. I guess we close for the night, and I shall probably see you all next month.
Thanks,
See
Stanley.
y'all.
Okay,
Eddie,
Yeah,
before
everybody.
you go off,
you're right.
will you give me a call tomorrow, please? I left you a voicemail today about another situation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, is there anything else we need to do, Mr. McCarthy?
That's all I have.
Okay, well, I thank you very much, and we can all sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.
The meeting.